Hey guys, Compulsion84 here. Today I've got a comparison of two 1:8x scopes. I've got the Vortex Strike Eagle 1:8x and the Primary Arms ACSS 1:8x. These scopes are very similar. They're both 1:8x, they have illuminated reticles, and they cost about $400 new. So why am I doing this? I wanted to get a 1:8x optic because my eyes are garbage, because I've got a 1:4x Vortex PST, and that's just not enough for me at range. So I couldn't make a decision. These are both so similar. I picked them both up, I didn't mount them, and I'm going to return the one I like less. So I took pictures of both reticles looking at the same thing, inside, outside, a whole bunch of different things. Anyways, the scopes are so similar specification-wise, the point of this video is so you can pick which reticle you like better. And if you do decide to pick up either the Vortex or the Primary Arms scope, please use the links in the description below because they help support the channel. And now for the meat and potatoes. I'm going to show you a bunch of objects with pictures side by side with both scopes. And after I do that, I'm going to tell you my personal thoughts, commentary, and the one that I picked and preferred. So before I got these, I actually preferred the Vortex scope. I thought it had a clearer sight picture. The Primary Arms scope had that thick horseshoe which seemed to be too tight in. The post-it picture shows it just about perfectly. If you want to do up close shooting, it's great. It tells you exactly where you need to be. And this is what was really important to me, the USPSA Targets. This is a replica of the cardboard cutouts that you'll use in 3-gun and things like that. The Primary Arms scope is just perfect for this. It's clean, it shows me right where to aim. I want to aim at the bottom of the horseshoe up close, or at the chevron. Versus the Vortex, which those big thick rings on the outside actually get in the way in my opinion. So here again, I prefer the Primary Arms because the horseshoe seemed to kind of frame the target versus the Vortex seemed to be just all over the place and covering a lot of the sight picture that I didn't like. So when you actually use the bullet drop compensator, I again greatly preferred the Primary Arms reticle. It was etched thinner and didn't have the windage, the very large windage widths on there. It has dots, which I greatly preferred. And so here you see the problem with the Primary Arms scope. The horseshoe does obscure your target a little bit when you are using the 100-yard zero, the chevron. The Vortex does that less. So here on the bench you can see that if you were to use the bullet drop compensator, the Primary Arms is a little bit clearer. The Vortex does the same job. It has a little bit of extra windage marks, but it does obscure the target more. And here's just an image showing both the reticles lit up. This is not meant to be a direct brightness comparison, just to show you what's lit up in the etchings. I would say the Primary Arms might be a teeny bit brighter, but it's not huge in my opinion. I would say in daylight they're both about the same. If it's very bright outside, they're not going to be super effective. So to highlight a couple things that I thought were really important. Up close, the Primary Arms horseshoe is just awesome in my opinion. It does get in the way a little bit, I'm not going to lie. However, if you look at that 3x3 post-it at 25 feet, this is magnified just to illustrate it, but it perfectly frames the target. If you were going for something like a clay pigeon or anything small, this would make it very easy to hit it up close. You're going to have your 100-yard zero, so you'll be aiming with roughly the bottom of the horseshoe. And the same thing applies to the USPSA Target. You can just put it right in the middle and use the top of the chevron with your 100-yard zero and just hit a little bit low, or you can aim your gun up a little bit and aim at the bottom of the horseshoe. You're going to be doing something similar with the Vortex. You're going to be needing to offset the hold a little bit, but that large circle is a bit too exaggerated. You'll end up hitting too high if you use the bottom of their circle. And for the bench comparison, you can see with the bullet drop compensator, I just like it a lot better on the primary arms. Not to mention you can also use the width of it for ranging. With the primary arms reticle, it's actually a series of very thin lines making that horseshoe shape. If you have really good eyes or you squint, you can see it. It doesn't really matter in practice. Just thought it was cool and I tell you. The Vortex is a solid etching. I personally like the primary arms reticle with just the chevron and the horseshoe being lit because it focuses and draws my eye. With the Vortex reticle, the whole thing is lit up practically, or all of the middle of it, and it doesn't help me focus as much. I want to be able to just draw my eye right to the middle. And in my opinion, at range, I don't want the bullet drop compensator to be lit. I just want to get that line exactly where it's going to be. I'm going to be squinting and focusing anyways. There's no reason to have that lit up. Again, that is personal preference. The other thing I will mention is the Vortex etchings are thicker on the bullet drop compensator. In my opinion, too thick. I think it obscures the target a little bit too much, but again, this is preference based. Now for the fun part, the mechanics. With the primary arms reticle, you zero this at 100 yards using the tip of the chevron at 100 yards, 200 yards, bottom of the chevron, 300 yards, top of the post, and 400 yards, the first hash mark. I don't remember what it's called. Now for the fun part. The Vortex reticle is meant to be zeroed at 200 yards. You can zero it at 50 yards to be close, but the ideal zero is 200. What this means is at 100 yards, you're not going to be exactly on target with that center dot. You're going to be a couple inches off depending on ammo type and things like that. So in practicality, it's still effective, and that's one of the really cool things about the 200-yard zero. However, you are going to have a little bit of adjustment if you are doing precision shooting. Then with the Vortex, you drop to the first hash for 300 and the second hash for 400. And now for windage and moving target. Primary Arms has little dots next to the bullet drop compensation parts of the reticle to show how much you need to account for a 5 mph wind. It also has an 8.6 mph moving target indicator. This is for roughly the average running speed of a human. This is for the military. I don't know what else to say about that. So Vortex does a little bit better windage-wise. They have a 5 mph windage mark closest to the center post, and the outer edge of the reticle is used for 10 mph. I would note there is no direct moving target indicator, although you could probably use the large horizontal bars if you wanted. So the primary arms scope also does range finding. You can use it widthwise to measure 18 inches shoulder to shoulder in the center bit and with each drop elevation wise, and you can see how it tapers down, or you can go vertically to measure a 5'10", roughly 6 feet target, and you go from the bottom up to the height of the mark, and you kind of frame your target to see what range they're at. So which one did I prefer reticle wise? That would be the primary arms by a long shot. Initially, I preferred the Vortex both because I have a Vortex scope already and also because I thought it was better, but once I saw how big the circle was, I didn't like it at all. It also has the large horizontal markings that frankly just get in the way. So up close, I think the primary arms scope wins hands down. That horseshoe should perfectly frame a roughly 3x3 target. It'll get you exactly where you need to be, and I think it's going to be a lot faster. I look forward to use it for action shooting. I will confess I am not a huge chevron fan. I would rather have a dot, but it is what it is. Some people greatly prefer them, especially the military guys that have ACOGs. Again, the things that drove me to primary arms was the less clutter, there's less etchings, and the etchings are thinner. So there's just more, I guess, you can see more of the world versus seeing more of the reticle. Again, this is all personal preference, but in my mind, I would rather have less obstructions and just see what I want to see, hit what I want to hit, and not have to worry about all this other junk. The Vortex scope does have a pro that the larger circle obscures less of the target in the center. However, I would say as a con that you can't use the bottom of it so effectively up close, and I just don't think it's super useful. Now, people with much more experience, especially in the military, may have a better use for this than I do, but I'm used to using essentially the bottom edge of a horseshoe or the bottom edge of the reticle for shots at 25 yards and less to be on target. I just don't find the Vortex circle to be effective for the style of shooting that I'm used to. And with the illumination, I think less is more. I think having the lit chevron and horseshoe is better than having the lit circle and the rest of the reticle on the Vortex. And the Primary Arms also has the nice bonus of a moving target indicator, something I'll never use, but you might if you hunt or there's zombie, cyborg, doppelgangers, whatever you need to shoot that's running. And I also really like that Primary Arms included both a horizontal, shoulder width rangefinder and the vertical one. While I won't be shooting at anyone, the horizontal and vertical indicators could be used on silhouettes for range finding at 3-gun, or I could figure out other objects and figure out a scaling system so I can figure out what range I'm shooting at, so I'm not just shooting, looking for the bullet drop, adjusting, etc. I think the rangefinder's a great thing, and I personally find it's done very unobtrusively. And don't misunderstand me, I think the Strike Eagle 1-8 is also a really good scope. I just like the Primary Arms reticle much better. If you happen to see one of these on sale and there's a big price difference, that might be enough to sway your decision. Either way, I think they're both good pieces of glass for the price range. So thanks for watching my video. If you haven't seen me before, I'm Compulsion84, and I like to make videos about guns, pew pew pew, gaming, and gadgets. Take a look around my channel, subscribe if you enjoy it, and thanks for watching.